Today's episode of XYZ is brought to you by the wistful nostalgia of leaving the Northeast, fluffy romantic comedy books, and good network television.
Oh, okay.
See? That was good.
That was good. I'm just cheating off another podcast I made.
Yeah, shout out to Diabolical Eyes. Sorry for taking your intro. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
They can't sue us
everybody.
for that, right? That's not copyright.
You would. I mean, we just gave their podcast a shout out, so maybe that's helpful.
And hey,
we won't do it every week.
We're not making enough money off this podcast for it to be
you can try to
worth
sue us, but they won't get anything.
Oh, do you want the writing to my 3 Substack posts?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Queen.
Also, if you're watching, welcome to our new background. Welcome to the new setup. I finally decided after a year of living here that I should probably actively move into an office. And so that's what I spent the last couple of days doing. So welcome to the XYZ segment of Wonder in the Weeds podcast / YouTube show. Like us and subscribe on both. I'm Christy, one of your hosts, and
I'm Faith, one of your hosts.
We're representing Gen X and Gen Z,
respectively.
And today's episode is actually a faith-generated episode. So all you Gen Zers out there, shout out to you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just be quiet and let you take it away. I will show you my new mug that I got when I was in Los Angeles. If you are unaware of what Homeboy Industries is, or who Father Greg is, go look him up and them up. But we happened to leave the airplane. We landed and the first thing we saw was a Homeboys Industries cafe. And so we immediately got coffee. And then on our way back through LA, I was like, I'm going to need a mug. So here we go.
Your vice is a good mug.
So go look up Homeboys. That's not my wonder this week, but it's my wonder all the time. He's my wonder all the time. So go look him up. All right. Go ahead. What do you want to talk about?
Okay, so I wanted to talk about, because one of the things that kind of has become a common theme, like in our lives, just as we chat, and also that I'm seeing in my online spaces is, recently there has been, the CNN reporting came out about the website that was basically trigger warning for sexual assault mentions.
Yeah.
But a website that linked to like a Telegram group that was basically like it was like men teaching men how to drug and rape their partners. And it was really scary news to learn. The group had like 200 members. The website, the like flashy headline that has been going around is that the website that this group kind of spawned off of got like 62 million views over the course of February, which is the shortest month of the year for those of us keeping track. And a lot of the reaction to that I have seen, at least in my like internet circles, was genuine outrage and respectable outrage. Respectable outrage is an oxymoron, but like necessary outrage with regard to like what we learned and the scope of it. And also I saw one specific Substack article, and I'm forgetting the author, but it was a woman who said like, what a time to be single. Like if this is what is happening, what a time to not be in the dating pool. What a time to not actively be researching or like searching for that, specifically if you are someone who dates men. And as someone who is not actively in the dating pool, but is kind of always, we talked about this in our last episode that went up, kind of always, much to my own chagrin, like thinking about dating and like consuming, like I read a lot of romance books. I watch a lot of rom-coms. Like I have a lot of friends who are in healthy relationships, and it feels to me like I don't know how anybody my age with access to the internet that I have, it's not that I have, but also I'm 23. Like I have unrestricted access to the internet now because I'm an adult. I did not have this range of access when I was 14, 15, 16, even
pretty close.
Yeah. By the time I hit high school, I probably had some, but it was much more monitored when I was like a preteen than it was when I was in high school. And it definitely shapes how you view the world and how you view the society with which you live. So I wanted to ask my mom, like, was my old mom? Well,
in the 1900s.
What was
it like?
And I don't mean it in a like a bad way, but also like I were just speaking of Diabolical Eyes. They did an episode on Carolyn Bessette Kennedy and that show Love Story. And one of the like main draws of that show, besides the Kennedys of it all, is that like that was an era before the internet. Like she was a celebrity in an old fashioned celebrity sense, in that she was on the cover of tabloids. I think of like,
She was blonde.
she was blonde. Yeah, she was skinny and blonde and rich. And I think of that, the changing media landscape with which I grew up in, and how it has definitely made me just more afraid of dating and
Stop.
I was going to
full
say,
stop.
I was just going to say, like, all right, I'm going to need to narrow you down
Yes.
here because you're going to talk for 4 hours
Yes.
and we're not going to get to a point.
100%.
But I think there's something to that. Like, it's just more afraid.
Just more afraid.
stop.
And so I wonder,
Today, however, we're going to talk about one particular thing.
yes, I know we started this talking about boys. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to ask you, like, is it truly that you did not have access to such a large scope of information? Because you and your friends weren't dumb by any stretch
I'd
of
like
the
to think so.
imagination. And you're all, like, most of your high school friends, the ones that I know in my life, are in like healthy, successful relationships.
Many of us with guys we met in high school.
Yes. And so I just wonder, that was my big question, like the thing that's been rattling around my brain is like, how did my mom's generation, particularly because not to the extent the internet did, but like you and I have had some honest conversations about like safety around dating and safety around like, partying and safety around drugs and alcohol and
Yeah.
how to kind of keep yourself safe. So it was a thing that you definitely understood.
But I'm not sure I understood it as from my own experience in high school and college. Like, I honestly don't have my memory is what it is. And so I don't think the cautiousness around like roofing and things like that came in, I think, in college for me, but it was still this sort of thing that we just talked about. Like, yeah. And so when it came time to parent, a lot of that information came from the work that I did, which at that time was specifically with survivors of sexual violence. So I had an insight into, the way things go that sort of were like stories I heard when I was younger. And then I would hear these actual real life things that happened to women that I was working with. And so that made me a little extra cautious of, like one statistic that will stick in my mind forever is that 25% of college age women will have a negative sexual experience in their first semester at college. That was a little terrifying to hear. So a lot of the information that I had that made me afraid for you specifically came later and wasn't necessarily due to the internet. It was because of my work. But I do have a lot of thoughts on the access we have being a woman in the world, especially a young woman in the world, and the access you have to information isn't a bad thing. And I can totally understand why it would make you afraid, and also can color your vision as like the all men thing. One of the things that came out with that CNN article was this whole idea of like, yeah, we're not saying not all men anymore because 62,000 of them came to this web. Now, in the beginning of that headline, it was not clear that it was 62,000 hits on the website. The chatter in the beginning was 62,000 men subscribed to this website to learn how to sexually assault their own wives or partners or loved ones or whatever. And not that it's any better than what we do know about it, but it is a sort of like, it did give people pause, I think, of the like, we keep trying to say not all men, but it sure feels like all men when you read something like that. So I think, so to answer your question simply, no, we didn't have as much. I didn't have the like latent distrust for men that you did.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking at all of them
And
as bad. And I will say this is something that I really want to say, because as a mom and as a counselor, what I have noticed, I think I have a theory that a lot of this information, again, not that it's bad to have, but that it almost drowns out your own inner gut monologue or gut voice. Like, I was going to say I wasn't afraid of all men, but I definitely was cautious around men and learned to just sort of hone my own instincts and fear. I have a famous story of college that I told these kids of where I like ran out of a fraternity house. Like, I ended up going upstairs with a guy and after a party or whatever. And I don't even remember. I think he left the room for something. And I actually physically got a headache, like a migraine headache, and ran out and ran to my sorority house. I didn't live in the sorority house. I just ran to the sorority house as a like, help. I don't know what to do, but I know that I needed to get out of that situation. Now, I don't know that anything was going to happen. I probably not. He was kind all night long, but it just with these like alarm bells physically went off and was like, get yourself out of here. I sometimes worry with the amount of stuff that you're taking in that those alarm bells are just constantly going off. And so you don't even know anymore, like, what's the difference between a guy that's nice and a guy that I need to be suspicious of because this nice feels like it could turn at any moment. Like, that makes me nervous for you.
Yeah. And I think that, like, it definitely, because what I was going to say before, and I wanted to let you talk, is like, I know, crazy. There is, I think, a real sense, and I'm sure there are some women my age who feel the same way of like, I do feel bad. Like, and I know that like the internet, because the other side of this, you know, like the internet loves purity. And I mean that in a like, not in the like,
it's sort of that black
it loves
white.
binary. So you're either 100% good or you're 100% evil. And one opinion will put you on either end of the spectrum. And there's nobody who's 100% good or 100% evil, one may argue. But the older I get, the more time I spend like trapped in my own echo chamber of like, well, I'm getting one side of it that's like men are scary and bad. And here's all this information. Here's all these statistics. I mean, I think of even like I was 13 when the Chanel Miller case happened, the Stanford
anybody needs to remember who she is.
Yeah.
And a woman who was found behind a dumpster on the campus of Stanford University, and her the man who assaulted her was, I believe, did he get anything? I just remember the judge saying, I don't want to ruin this poor kid's future.
I think maybe he spent 10 months in jail.
I don't even, like, my blood is boiling just.
Yes.
Anyway, Chanel Miller.
That happened when I was 13.
Yeah.
And the lasting impression that has placed upon me is, even though I did not grow up in a house where this was the impression, the lasting impression that placed upon me was something bad could happen to you and the world does not care.
Yeah.
And there will be no consequences for something bad happening to you. And if anything, you will be told you are at fault for a bad thing happening to you.
Yeah.
So like, that's one ear of it. And then another ear of it is, oh my God, I feel like such a shrew, because anytime I think like, you know, I joke with my friends that I'm like, I ruin parties. Like somebody makes one slightly off color joke and I'm like, you know, that was a shitty thing you said.
Yeah.
And that like, so I feel like I'm always a Debbie Downer. I'm always making things a bigger deal than they need to be. I don't know how to relax. I don't know how to be chill. I don't know how to have fun. And then another part of it,
like, for the record, to show that none of that is actually true. Like, I know that that's your impression, but I would think if you polled like 9 out of 10 people that you hang around, they wouldn't be like, she's the Debbie Downer of the group. Like, I just don't think people would say that about you.
I hope so.
I understand that your impression is like, oh, I won't let things slide, but you also hang around a lot of people that also
things
wouldn't.
Don't slide. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't think that that's.
Yeah. And I say ruin parties because there were 2 parties in college where I was a senior, so I didn't care anyway. And there was one guy who was a jerk, and I spent the entire night being like, this guy's a jerk and he shouldn't be here, loudly in front of him. And had other younger girls be like, oh, you need to stop. And I was like, I'm not going to stop. He sucks and he's mean to you and he's been mean to him and he's been mean to her. What's he doing here? Yeah. And like, that ruins a party.
And for him,
but also like,
maybe
what the
not
heck?
For anybody else.
I didn't want him there. Why was he at my friend's apartment? He was going to be mean to people. Get out of here. And also there's like 3 pillars. There's like, men are bad. You are a shrew for saying men are bad. And also, if you have any shred of empathy for the men in your life, you have betrayed the cause of womanhood.
Yeah.
Like anytime
and that is the internet.
Yes.
I think that's the internet. 100%. And I don't think that real people are like that as much in real life as the internet would have you believe. And I think women are more like that now because of the internet than we were then. And I'm not saying go back to, you know, a few episodes ago, we talked about how I came to the realization. I was like, oh my God, all I've done is accommodate men my whole life. Which also isn't true, but you know what I mean? I'm not suggesting we go back to that. What I'm suggesting is, how can you find the middle ground of being constantly suspicious and sort of hyper vigilant over every man you ever encounter and keeping yourself safe? Like, what's the middle ground there? And how do you hone your own, like, how do you pay attention enough to yourself? Because our bodies are miraculous little things, and that they will tell you when you are in danger.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when you have enough, and this is my like trauma therapist hat, when you have enough experiences in life that sort of throws off that internal monitor, and you don't know the difference between actual danger and perceived danger because it's similar to something that you encountered in the past. I love when I work with clients who are coming out of abusive relationships or have grown up in abusive households. And hold on, you love them you work with these clients? Yes, because I love the moment where, well, first of all, yes.
You do love
I love my clients. Like, I did not think it was possible for a human being to love another person, especially like a virtual stranger. But I have such like, there's no other word for it. I love the people that I work with. But yes, I love the moment where, and I often tell them this at the beginning, like what our work together is to get you from a place of feeling unsafe to just being allowed to be regularly annoyed. So like, I think a lot of times we make the mistake of like that binary piece. You're either unsafe or you're safe. Well, no, you can be like really pissed off and annoyed with somebody and not unsafe. But if you come out of a place or you've just been fully exposed to all of this information that just feels unsafe, you don't know anymore how to tell the difference between I better get the heck out of here or, oh, this guy is just annoying. You know, like, how do you figure out, or I don't really want to spend time around him, but I also don't need to run out of here. Like, this date sucks, but I'm okay.
And I think that the kind of generational thing is like, at least, you know, I just outed myself, is that like, it seems more and more like women my age are tired of men even being annoying. And I know that that's like, well, again, two sides of it can be true at the same time of like, I bring up that guy at the party, which like, I hope he never listens to this, but also maybe he should.
He's going to.
Is like, he wasn't, your friends, your classmates, your family, people in your life annoy you all the time. Like, not all the time, but like, you're going to be annoyed with the people in your life. I was annoyed with my friends. I was annoyed with my classmates, whatever.
You were annoying.
I was annoying to them and my classmates 100%. And that guy at that party was, one could say maybe he was annoying. I felt like he was being me. And so I said so. And I feel like more and more women, particularly if they're out on a date or if they're in a large group with a bunch of guys, are like, even guys being what would have been 5-10 years ago considered annoying. Now women are like, no, I don't even want to hang out with you if you're going to be annoying. And that I think sometimes is good because like that guy was a jerk. But I think sometimes like it doesn't allow, and this is where like rare faith king men empathy moment. It doesn't allow for like the men that I'm friends with to grow. Like if one guy has, you know, if I'm at a party with one guy and he says something that bugs me and I'm immediately like, you suck. It's different. And I would like to think that I'm better at this now than I was at 20 when the men in my life that I have had conversations with where I've been like, hey, like, you know, you do this thing. You know, this is something that happens where you kind of extend that olive branch. And it sucks that it sometimes requires like me, a woman, to be the one who's like, let me extend an olive branch to you, man. But I think sometimes it goes either way. I think it depends.
Well, I have two things that just came up there that I want to comment on, and hopefully I don't forget them. The first one was, you just did the binary thing of like, sometimes I want to let them be annoying because that make them grow. I think that is a perfect example of how you don't know how to trust your own self to know the difference between unsafe and annoying. Because if that guy at the party made you feel unsafe, or like you were like, I just don't have to put up with this, that's fine. But if that's happening every single time somebody's like slightly annoying in a crowd, that's a problem. I don't think it's ever wrong if you're like, hey, dude, you're being a jerk. Stop being a jerk. Like, Yeah, great. I actually feel glad that you feel safe enough to do that, because I would never have felt safe enough to do that, either emotionally or physically in some cases. Like I would never have called it, not never, but I would sometimes not have called a guy out because I would have been afraid of what would have happened, either socially, like the repercussions of like, well, you're never being invited to this party again, or physically sometimes, if he decided to react. So the fact that you feel safe enough to even call a guy out is great. I think that's progress. I also think women in general are more there now than they were 20 years ago in a place where especially younger women are like, yeah, we don't have to put up with this stuff. But I think there's still that, it sounds like there's still that sort of confusion over when is it okay? When is it, but that's what in my best interest to do that.
That's what it feels like. It feels like, when is it okay? I mean, to me, it feels like, when is it okay to...
Well, let's be clear. Societally, it's never okay.
Yeah.
Like we are not supposed, like, why do you think there's this whole male epidemic of loneliness, a male epidemic of blah, blah, blah?
Men are so lonely. Why do I keep hearing about it?
Yeah. And it's because we're asserting ourselves more and they don't know what to do with that. But then that was going to be the second thing I say when you say, like, I want to give guys I care about a chance to grow. I do think it's sometimes important for us to remember that patriarchy fucks with everybody. Excuse me. But patriarchy is bad to everybody. And so men you care about, and this is where I think it's important, where we know like the difference between unsafe and annoyed, because the men you care about, they sometimes they do stuff that they don't realize is hurting your feelings. And they actually would like to know that it's hurting your feelings, or that it's not appropriate, or that it's something. And I'm not even talking about like the obvious stuff. I'm talking about stuff. If you really care about them, like, I'll give you a little story. And I think you were there. And I don't even remember the full details. It was something of, I know exactly what it was. I've just been playing all this golf. And largely it's because I wanted to meet people, but some of it was because this is what my husband loves. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to spend time with this guy in the New months, then I should probably learn how to play golf. And I've also been playing a lot of pickleball. Well, as you might imagine, my husband is super into the fact that I'm playing golf. He can't wait. I mean, I could go out and buy a golf cart right now probably, and he wouldn't bat an eye.
I'm literally
like, buy whatever you want, do whatever you want, be wherever you want. We have tea times from now until, next fall because he's just like, oh my God, you're going to play with me. Anyway, he's super excited. He can't wait to talk about it. I can never talk about it too much. He's so excited. At one point, I said to him, because he's open to this kind of stuff, I was like, what would have been awesome? If you were as excited about pickleball as I am getting about golf, because I like pickleball. And he's like, oh, I play with you sometimes. And I was like, yeah, but would you make time to play with me? Or would you just come if I invited you? And it was in that moment. I might not have realized that 2 years ago, but I was realizing it in this moment. Like, I'm doing this thing because I want to spend time with you. He is a great participant. He's a very eager and enthusiastic participant, but he was not making the effort to do the thing that he knew I loved. And you could see the look on his face was like, oh, you're right. I did not do that. I was like, yeah, that's like true parity and true equality, is you being like, hey, here's the thing she likes. I should learn more about it. I should get into it. I should whatever. Like, I've dragged him to women's basketball games. He watched the NCAA playoffs more than and he did get into them a little, but he would not have done that solely based on the fact that he knew I liked it. He did it because I asked him to, and he was like, sure, of course, I'll do what you want to do. But he would never have like made the effort to do the thing.
Where by
and this
contrast,
is like
the NFL
one of
draft
the best kind of guys.
Was a full event in our house because that's what
I didn't pay attention to it.
Well, I didn't pay attention.
That's a bad example.
I felt like it was all we talked about.
Well, yes, that's all. Yeah, but my point is, we both know, and now you know, listeners, he's one of the best guys you're ever going to meet as far as that kind of stuff goes. And still, he was like, oh yeah, I haven't done anything to get into the things they can mention. And I'm over here like, well, let me take up golf because my husband played. So that, I don't even know where I was going with that, but I think that was, if you care about someone, then they do want to know that you are feeling a certain way about what they said, or you would like it if it happened differently. And they're open to that. And that's how you know the good ones. Yeah. They're not all open to it right away. And they're not all not defensive about it right away. But it's just another example of sort of how this system of men are here, women are here, listeners, I'm still at the bottom below if you can't see me, how that doesn't benefit anyone in the long run. And so giving guys a chance, if you do care about them, giving them a chance to sort of hear you and make different choices isn't betraying your feminine side or other women or feminism or anything.
And I think that the other thing, and this is like to Gen Z women who maybe like me are like, my God, how does anybody date in this voice suck, girls rule, boys rule? Like, how does anybody date in this kind of world? Something I try to remind myself, and it gets harder, but something I try to remind myself is like, this is a crazy story, but when I was really little, I was really worried about being kidnapped. And that became like my big fear, was that someone was going to like break into my house and take me. No one was going to know.
Nice.
And my mom, some of you may know her. Yes. What? Me? Never. You said, you were like, hey, not to discourage you from having a fear, but the reason we hear about kidnappings on the news is because they happen so infrequently, they make the news. Like, there was like back-to-back kidnappings in 2012 that made the news. And the reason we heard about them was because that doesn't happen. It's unusual that someone breaks into your home and takes you from your bed. And I would like to think it's not as unusual as being kidnapped, but the salacious stories of, men, or of the more, not insidious, but the more of like egregious, over the top. I told my boyfriend I wanted him to play, pickleball with me, and he broke up with me. Like those things, like, because you see those stories on the internet
of like
all the time.
Yourself
of saying like, hey, I would really like it if we, or, like even the videos you see of like someone's playing music and the girl is trying to get her boyfriend to dance and he's so over it. He doesn't do it at all. And those videos, we see them because they're good content. We don't see them because that's everybody. I mean, if you lived my life, the amount of people in my life that are dancing in the streets with their partner, it's crazy. My dad would love to be dancing with my mom every second he gets. The only reason he's not is because my mom doesn't like to do it that often.
I don't like to do it when I'm trying to cook dinner.
Yes. Or, I mean, well, in the middle of the street, you probably would do it. But
we have a picture of it.
Yeah, it is actually pretty good. But the stories of like, I think the thing that sometimes also freaks me out, even more so than the egregious assault, is that like, that kind of, what is it? Like the word like weaponized incompetence or something, that like, you're going to wake up one day and find that you are trapped in a relationship where you're doing all the work and he isn't interested in what you're interested in. And he's actually like just a guy who's standing there. And I think this goes back to your like, trust your gut thing of like, I say this to I've started saying this to myself. And so I will say it to you too, the listeners who are my age. What's making you believe that about yourself? Like, what influence, who in your life? Is it the internet? Is it your friends? Is it your own kind of worst inner critic? That you're going to let yourself get trapped in a situation where you're not being treated fairly? Like,
well, hold on. I'm going to pause.
Oh, okay.
Because, and again,
this is the trauma therapist that you're like
getting a little defensive of my people. Yeah. Because two things. I think no one gets into those situations thinking they're going to happen. Thinking it or even noticing it at first. Mm-hmm. Because the guys they're very good at it. The ones they get into those. And I will say one thing that I think is a benefit to your generation is that you guys know that. Like, I am so curious 20 years from now to see if there are fewer women in abusive relationships than there were 20 years prior, just because now we're talking about it all the time. I was thinking one of the things that happened when I was your age was that we started admitting, we all grew up afraid of being like assaulted on the street. Like we were going to get raped on the street. I don't even know if we're allowed to use that word on YouTube, but
we have to be able to.
We would get assaulted on, walking to our cars or walking, or, like we were afraid of strangers. And then in I feel like maybe my high school years or college years, we started admitting like, oh, actually, no, the majority of the assaults happen with somebody date rape became the phrase du jour. And it was like, that was the reality and always had been. I mean, the amount of like spousal assaults that happened in the, 60s, 70s, that kind of thing. We started talking about it in the 90s and the early 2000s.
Well,
loosely, not broadly, but loosely, we started talking about the fact that you were probably more unsafe with people you knew than you were from strangers. And so start to look for these things. And now I feel like we've gotten even more information about, hey, these are some red flags of an unsafe relationship. I mean, at my old job, I used to literally go into middle schools and high schools and talk about abusive relationships and coercive control and, sexual assault and things like that. So we were literally educating our young women where I lived in how to look out for those kind of things, because it looks very much like love, especially when you're young. Those early days of, that possessiveness and that control and that, that desire to be near you all the time is very easy to mistake. So ending up, quote unquote, I'm putting that in quotes for you listening, ending up in those relationships is not 100% impossible, even if you're really educated and really paying attention and all of that stuff. And that goes back to the understanding your own sense of, because not every, but almost every woman I've worked with has said to me at one point, looking back on it, I could see the things I probably should have noticed, but you don't notice it because there's a million other things happening and you're either justifying it or whatever. But I wonder now if women your age will notice it more in the early days. But how do you turn that off when it's just annoying versus a red flag? Oh my God, sometimes this guy drives me crazy because he's constantly late. I mean, your father was 100% late for every single thing we did and often would cancel on me. He is a workaholic. He's still a workaholic. He continues to be a workaholic 30 years in. And in those early days, I probably should have ended it because I was not being treated with the kind of respect that I thought that I, looking back, probably deserved. And there were so many other good things about him. And he was open to me saying, hey, buddy, I don't know that this is going to work long term. Yeah.
If you want to be married to me, if you want to stay with me forever, you got to figure this stuff out. I've also was benefited. Your uncle, Craig, sat him down and was like, integrity is based on you doing what you say you're going to do. So get it. Thank you, Uncle Craig. Thank you, Uncle Craig. Well, also that he was open to me saying, hey, this isn't working for me. That to me was the biggest green flag of all.
And I had not with a romantic partner, but with a friend. I was in a weird, just bad friendship. It was just not a healthy relationship, even though it wasn't romantic to be in. And I had a friend in college, as I was telling my friend about, shout out Haley if she listens to this, as I was telling Haley about this person that I was whatever. And she very quietly was like, I just don't think this person treats you very well. And it was I don't think this person is very good for you. And it took me probably about a week of being what does she know? She's not inside it, whatever. And then hearing that and then having the same experience as I was having with this person, I was like, oh, she's right. This isn't how I should be treated.
And I trusting her enough.
Yeah.
Trusting yourself to know this girl is my friend. She is looking out for me. She would not say something to me just to be a pain in the neck about it. She would not that is trusting your own instincts because you knew she was the person you should actually be listening to versus because we do that too. We'll be oh, my friend doesn't like my boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. Well, that's their problem. Mm-hmm. And usually they're right almost every time. If your friend is brave enough to say something to you about your boyfriend or girlfriend, you should probably listen. Yeah. Not always. Sometimes your friends are the problem. But yeah. So that's sort of trusting your own gut too, to know Haley is somebody that I know is looking out for me. She wouldn't just say something to me to be.
And she didn't stop being my friend because I was still, whereas one of the most sobering conversations I had with another friend of mine was when she revealed to me that she was in a not great relationship. And I asked, after they had broken up, she revealed the extent of how bad things were. And I said, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you say anything? We were living together at the time. I was like, why didn't you say anything? She was like, oh, well, I knew you would have wanted us to break up and I wasn't ready to do that. And so I just knew you and I would have stopped being friends. And looking back, I'm like, oh my God, I hate that was the impression that she had of me, that if she had told me, but she was probably a little bit right. I was 20 and stupid.
No, but it also sounds like she would have just stopped hanging out with you because she wouldn't have wanted to feel uncomfortable about you not liking the partner.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure at 20, I hope, 3 years later, I would be better at this.
But I'm not sure at 20 I would have been able to hang out with her without trying to get her to break up with her bad partner. Like, trying to be like, you deserve better than this. Yeah. And that's not always what people need in times like that, when they like can't see the forest through the trees.
And so maybe that's the sort of answer to all this, and the way to wrap it up a little bit is to take your life experiences, all of those things, friends, partners, all of it, and remind yourself of those when you're starting to notice the sort of internet of it all seeping into your brain. Like when you start to realize, oh my God, I'm literally thinking every man that I encounter is the enemy. Maybe you need to remind yourself, A, of the good ones you know, and B, of the fact that you can trust yourself enough to discern between the scary ones and the ones who just need a little work, the ones who relate for every date. Like, is their soul good? You know, I always say when anybody ever asks, like, how have you stayed together for so long? I always say, like, it's his soul. Like, there's no other person out there with the soul. And I always hesitate because I always think, this is my crazy showing. I always think if I say something really good or really solid, then my relationship's going to end. Like, I just, 30 years
anxiety.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You want to know where I get it from, listeners?
No, there was no question where you get it from. Anyway, I always think back to, because sometimes I wonder this too, like, how are we still together after all these years? And I think, because his soul, his inner person, his capital S self is the one for me. And no matter how like poorly the outside acts, I know that in there is the person that I fell in love with all those years ago, and I can get to him. He will allow me to get to him if I'm patient enough or whatever, and vice versa. It's not like I'm a gem all the time either. So, but we both just understand that you know, we fell in love with the person that we are in the middle of all the other mess that's around. So that, I think, if you can keep reminding yourself that, like, you can trust yourself to find that person. And you can trust that you're surrounded by enough people that will be like, this is a bad dude.
Yes.
Or like, I don't like that you've disappeared from your friend group, or I don't like that, you know, like there are red flags that do come up that if you are paying attention for them, hopefully that keeps you out. And in the meantime, I hope that it gives you some space to like go out and try and meet other people and not just assume they're all going to be dangerous. So that's all I got.
I think that's a good way to close.
Yeah. It seemed like we kind of came around full circle without even knowing we were going to.
Yeah, there we go.
So good. Now we'll move into the more fun parts.
Yeah.
So we'll start with Wonder. What was your Wonder of the week? And I just told you before we started recording what mine was, and I've already forgotten what it was. I think we were going to talk about your dad.
Yeah. Well, my Wonder was going to be my dad. I said before we started recording that, like, trashing men. I was like, I should bring up my dad, which is like, again, and not to be like, I'm betraying the sisterhood. I'm literally doing a podcast with my mom. Like, it's not like I'm like, I feel like there's also that internet thing of like, your dad, what's that quote that like, there was this circulated my internet for a while. It was a quote that was like, the dad and the daughter will often conspire against the mother. Like, the dad and the daughter will like team up. It's much more eloquently put
in our house.
It 100% is. It's much more eloquently put that like, it basically says that like, in an effort to make fun of the mother, the dad and the daughter will team up, but this will not save the daughter from the mother's fate. Like, the daughter sometimes thinks that by, and it goes back to that patriarchy thing of like, you're supposed to hate your wife. You're supposed to hate your wife and hate your job. And like, you know, everything thrives on despair.
Also that mothers and daughters are supposed to hate each other for a while too. Which is just never really worked in our house.
No, we definitely had moments where we didn't, I think we definitely didn't get along. We disagreed in my life, but we never, again, it goes back to like, we know each other well enough to know that it was not the be all end all.
Yeah. And like, you didn't do anything that wasn't normal teenager stuff. And I really just tried to bite my tongue a lot of the time. Not tell you what I was really thinking.
Oh my gosh.
Which is appropriate. Yeah. We can have another episode on that.
I was just thinking about the conversation we had where she revealed that she did not like a shirt that I had worn for the entirety of high school. It was a shirt that I loved. And my mom finally, I'm a college graduate. And my mom finally was like, oh my God, I hated that shirt. I was like, what?
Yeah, but I hated that shirt for my own. Yes, it's a good other episode because I hated that shirt for my own. It was my own stuff. It looked like, so I was a poor kid and it looked like a knockoff, like cheap shirt of something we would have, like the rich girls in my high school would have worn. And so I just hated it. I was like, I can't believe my kid is wearing a shirt that looks like this like cheap polyester garbage that I was like trying to hide from in high school. But I knew that was my own stuff. So I'm like, there's no such, she loves this thing. I'm not going to tell her I hate it. And it looked fine on her. And it was a fine shirt. It was my own baggage that I was bringing to that, which is what gets mothers and daughters in trouble. So we can do a whole other episode about that.
But all that being said, the internet will forever be in me, and that I'm like, I want to make it clear that I like my mom too. But my dad is a great guy, and he's hit a couple of like really good, like just zingers this week. He's been having a bit of a rough go of it, and in his professional life, and so it's been funny to like. I think one of the things the older I get that I really admire about my dad is his ability to gracefully be the butt of the joke. I find that to be such an endearing quality about him. Even like the older, I think of my siblings and I'm trying to think of like a safe for work joke that we make, and not even safe for work in that they're just I'll give you a perfect example. My sister and I were on the phone with each other and she goes, "Did dad tell you his joke about space?" And I went, "Yes." And she went, "Dad texted my brother and me in a separate group chat, just the two of them, to tell them this joke." And I was like, "That's because dad tried that joke out on mom and I first, before he was like, well, now I can send this to your sister and brother." And like, that is just it's such a quintessentially him thing that he's like, so proud of a joke that he's made that he has to make, but he also has to make sure that it's good enough for everybody. And we have all since said, like, did you practice that joke before you sent it to like the actual funny people in our family? And he makes no bones about the fact that like, yes, he did. And also that'll be something we tease him about for the rest of our lives, the three of us, that we're just going to be like, oh, how many siblings did you practice this joke on before you sent it to me?
Yeah.
So I think he's humble in that way, and that he kind of knows, like, I think he's even said like, yeah, the like part of being the dad is that your kids make fun of you. Yeah. Like you say this all the time too, that like one of the things that it has been fun about us getting older is that we have things between the three of us about the two of you that are like,
we're like, oh, we're those parents.
Yeah, we're, you're my cute old mom and dad at this point. And like, there's, you texted us when you were on vacation that was like, I need somebody to know. My dad it was a great story. They played golf with somebody whose son
This is not just a great story, and I won't give you wonder this week because this was kind of it. This is not just a great story. It is a definitive story of who this man is. So go ahead.
They're playing golf with, they went on vacation. They're playing golf with a man who they had like all these random pairing, but they had all these different connections. He also grew up in Maryland, which is where my parents grew up. They had all these kind of like connections, little life connections. And as they're talking on the golf course, he mentions that his son is getting married next week. This guy they're playing with, his adult son, is getting married this week. And my dad goes, "What father of the groom?"
He like almost leans in to hug him.
Yes.
You don't even know this guy's name.
This is a stranger. Shakes his hand, is like, "Congratulations, so exciting." And that is such first of all, that is so my dad. That is so classic that like the second that he learns there's something worth celebrating, it could be as big of a milestone as a marriage, or it can be as minute as like you made it through the school day.
This guy also had a beautiful shot once too, and my dad was as excited.
My dad,
my husband, her dad was almost as excited as if it was his own shot. Like he just is everybody's cheerleader, whether he's known you for 8 minutes or 8 holes of golf. He's your number one cheerleader.
And we 3 Ritz-King kids have had enough, not enough, like, we're sick of it, but like we know him well enough now and are kind of, we're all either in college or out of college, that we were like, my mom texts us this story and we were like, of course, like that guy, we know exactly. And so that becomes like both a really genuine, like great thing, and also like something we can tease him about. Then we're going to be like, oh, are you going to congratulate this guy on this too?
Like, I heard this guy's daughter's getting
yes. Oh, the bartender just made that drink really well. You're going to congratulate him. Like, and so I think that there's, for all of the
for all of the like bashing we just did on men, I think your point exactly of like the ones that want to get better will get better.
And there's a lot of them out there.
Yes. And I don't know, maybe dad has been like this since he was 20 years old, but I think it's such a distinctly like dad quality of like everyone is worth celebrating. You know, we tease him all the time that he's like, I love everybody and everybody loves me. And
he stole that from a TV show.
Yes. But I think that the way that kind of happens in real life is because he really does love everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's so excited to
he's like effusive.
Yes.
Because I also think I am an I love everybody person, but mine is a quieter, like,
again,
he celebrates everybody.
He's everybody's
he's the birthday
cheerleader
for the rest of his life.
Yes. So that was my wonder this week. And also I feel like we bash him a lot on this podcast. So he'll be excited to listen to this one and be like, nice. They said something nice about me. And you know, I can imagine he'll just be like, you're just such nice girls. Like he'll say that about this podcast for sure.
He'll wonder when we're going to start making money on it. I'll be like, do you think we could do something with this podcast?
I could tell another story about that, but I will not because we're so close to time.
Over. Anyway, our reading, watching, listening, I'm not even going to, we're going to talk because it's going to take us too long. So I'm just going to jump right to listening to because I know we both have the same one. We'll get back to books and TV shows later. But And we talked about this is sponsored by network TV. It's because we both have been watching these like cheesy network TV shows that we've been in love with. But we'll talk about them later because I know we're going to go over time as soon as I say this name. But Noah Kahan's new album just came out this week. And I will say I was very nervous because I love his stuff. And I was so worried that he was going to like two things. One, I think he's happy now. So that's, that might be a problem. And
you are participating in the artist has to be sad in order to make good art.
Particular art is so bothered. And I was like, he's now married and like happy and, living a good life.
He's so bothered
that I was afraid. But also I was just afraid because I'm like, wow, when you have built somebody up so much, like it's happened to everybody. There's a Pearl Jam album I don't like. There's a U2 album I don't like. There's an REM album I don't like. Like it just happens to everybody. No, this man brought it. Every single one. She can attest to this. I do not listen to albums. Like I get so bored. Anyway, I have no good words other than to say as a trauma therapist, this album is a beautiful album of like growth and insight and forgiveness and all of the like angst and anger he had in all the other ones and like self-hatred he had in all the other albums. This one is this like, okay, I've grown and I've seen things from a different way and I'm ready to accept some stuff and I'm ready to let go of some stuff and it is beautiful. And also every song is a banger. I love it so much. So that's the Gen X perspective of the Noah Kahan album, but I'd love to know yours because I know you're going to say the same one.
Yeah, I have also been listening to Noah Kahan. It's called The Great Divide, is the name of the album. And
which was also the song that was out.
Yeah, the lead single was called The Great Divide as well. Yeah, I think it's funny because I also am a writer. And so I have spent a lot of time listening to this album just going, shit, because it's so well written. And I think with sometimes artists, specifically songwriters, they have like 5 really outstanding songs. And then the rest of them are like solidly good.
Yeah. They're fine.
They're and not even fine. I would call them good. Like people who are talented songwriters write good songs and then they've got like a handful of like really exceptionally written songs. And the tricky thing about Noah Kahan is that there is almost a lyric in every single song that is like one of the greatest lyrics you've ever heard in your life. And they're not always the saddest lyric or the most profound. Sometimes the two that I think of are like off of his third album, Stick Season.
Yes.
I think of on his song New Perspective where he says, now the state bird sings our song so out of key that you're like, what the hell? Like who thinks of that? But then also in the lead single, The Great Divide, he states so simply, the pre-chorus is, not even that's the chorus. I think of the pre-chorus of, I think about you all the time and my deep misunderstanding of your life. Mm-hmm. And that's such a that's almost a throwaway. Like you can imagine saying that to somebody of like, oh my God, I think about them all the time. And I think about how I messed that up.
Yeah.
And it's such a universal feeling. And it's not, lyrically poetic or anything. It's just simply written, but it's also so like deep because everybody has something they think about like that. They have, or it doesn't even have to be a person. It's a town. It's a memory. It's a time in your life where you're
There's
just
a song
like,
where he talks about how he hopes the person never comes back around again, because then he just gets to be whatever he wants him to be in his head.
Yeah.
Like he gets to remember him as he wants to remember him, as long as he never comes back around again. And I'm like,
that song is called
so
23.
good.
I think of that and I think of his song Deny, 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 which I think comes right after 23 on the album, which I like that one because it's got a little bit more like hard rock guitars, which like no
that's the other thing is that lyrically you can't beat it. But then every song you're like, how do you do both? I don't understand.
What's going on here?
How is someone not writing these lyrics and someone else writing this music? And or vice versa. Like, there's lots of people out there that you're like, this song is great, but the lyrics are somebody else's, or the music is someone else's to go with these lyrics. This guy, I don't know how he does it and continues to do it. Anyway, I'm so grateful that he lived up to every single one of my expectations.
Yeah.
And now I have something to just play on repeat for the next till somebody else's album comes out.
Yeah.
So that's all we got this time. Wonder is, Kevin King. And we're just listening to Noah Gone. We're listening, reading, and we're watching Noah Gone this week.
I will say, not like, well, it's our show, so I can plug my own stuff.
Yeah.
I just put out a piece on Substack called, my Substack is called Bad Speller. About the piece is called Hometown Heroes, and it's about
bad speller, so please ignore the bad spelling.
There's one spelling mistake. I'm so sorry. I am not a professional. But it's a piece about, just because we were just talking about Noah Khan and lyricism, it's a piece about Bruce Springsteen and Prince and the sounds of my two different towns, the town I grew up in and the town I live in currently. And I'm really proud of it. So if you would like to go read it,
it's very good. Maybe we'll send it to, we can put it in a link in the show notes too.
Oh yeah.
It's very good. And speaking of Substack, I swear we are moving to it. Maybe you're even watching this on Substack by now. We've been recording and I have not been holding up my end of the bargain getting us on Substack, but we're trying to move to Substack so that we can just we would love to create community around the show. And I have tried it in various ways with podcasts before, and it just feels like Substack is the place to go. I'm a little deterred because I just read that they allowed the creepiest of all creeps to be on Substack recently. And so I was a little like, I don't want to be part of that. But I'm hoping they do the right thing and kick them off soon.
Yeah.
So anyway, look for us on Substack. And go read Faith's Bad Speller Substack about Bruce and Prince and what it's like to grow up in these musical cities. Yeah. So thanks for joining.
Take care.